Hello and welcome to Basic Linux course. This is the fourth section of the course, Linux Fundamental Concepts, and this is the first part of this section. In this section, we'll learn about Linux directory structure, command syntax, path name, IO redirection, links, and wildcard. Let's get started. Let's first talk about file system hierarchy standard. This is the standard for the files and directories and the contents in the Linux system. This is maintained by the Linux Foundation, and the latest version is 3.0, which was released on 3rd of June 2015. Okay, the first primary directory is the root directory, which contains all the content in the directory. So every content in Linux are within the root directory. And the next is bin, which have all the essential programs, binaries that is required for a single user mode. And the single user mode is when the maintenance mode. The basic functionality are required. And similarly, we have this bin directory, which have all the binaries that is required by the system administrator. And similarly, we have this lib32, lib64, libx32 directory. These are the directory where the library are located. These library are the programs that are required by these binaries. So these are the basic small programs that perform various tasks. Okay, and the next directory is boot directory, which contain all the things that is required for the system to boot. Boot loaders are stored in this directory. And this CD-ROM is kind of old structure where whenever we insert the CD and the content is mounted in this CD-ROM. These days the CD will be mounted on the media. Okay, and the next directory is div. Okay, where the device are, and in Linux everything is file, so every device connected will be in this directory. And the next is etc, etc. Here are the system level configuration are saved in the etc directory. And home directory, there will be individual directory for the users in the system, home directory. And next we have on these, and media is the directory where the media will be mounted, removable medias and drives. And mnt is where we'll mount our directories, our external file system. And opt is an optional, and where the application installed are located. So something like Google Chrome is in the optional. And in the pros is the virtual file system, which document all the kernel and process status. There are different files here within this system, and they are not actually a real file in some file system, but Linux maintain these files, so we can look through different file system. Okay, similarly we have this CPU info here. We have the information of the CPU, and there are uptime. We will save the information about the uptime of the system. Okay, this is just a virtual file system. And next we have root. This is the home directory for the root user. And this run is clearly a new directory structure where when an application is running, they can store some content files in this run directory. They can use the temp directory, but the data in the temporary directory may be deleted. So run is a dedicated place for the application. We have talked about the bin. Next is snap. In the snap directory, in the program, snap application installed with the snap will be stored here. Next is srb, site specific data. So if we host some data using Apache and stuff, we will save that file that website here. And the system This is also a virtual file system which have information about the device and device connected in the system. We can modify and store the device related data from this. And temp is a temporary directory where some temporary data are stored, and this will be cleared on every boot. And USR are the directory that store the application by the user, and this USR has similar directory like bin and sbin within it. And var is a directory where variable data are stored, like those data which keeps growing, like log files and stuff are stored in this directory. Okay, next let's learn about command syntax. Let's open terminal here. As I have already talked, a command have the command name, the option, and the argument. Okay, here ls here ls is the command, ls dash okay, ls is the command, ls dash a is the option, and permissions is the argument. Okay, so application, a command can have command name, options, and argument. Okay, and options define how the application work. Okay, to modify the way the command generally work. Okay, with ls we'll simply see all these different files. If we do ls-a, we'll get some hidden files as well. Okay, let's create some hidden file. Okay, with ls we cannot see that file recently created, but with ls-la we can see this hide data file. Okay, ls this option modify the way the command work, and we have parameter that will be passed to. So by default this will be the current directory, and if we pass some other directory, this command will act on that parameter provided. Okay, the parameter can be for the command or for the option. Okay, and there are plenty of commands which have no options and no argument. Okay? Simply just like ls can take non-argument as well. Okay, now next concept is path name. Okay, path name, there are two kind of path name in the Linux system, absolute and relative. So the path that start with the starting slash root directory is known as absolute directory, absolute path name, and relative path are like, if I have to go to, let's go to inside the today. Now if I have to move to this team-info, I can move with cd // cd // I'll be I step back and tea and s. Okay, now this directory that doesn't start with this slash, that's directory, is known as relative path. Okay, relative path. And as we know, we can use this tilde sign. This is the indication for the home directory. Okay, we are in the home directory. With this tilde sign, we can get the path of the home directory. It may looks like the relative path, but actually this tilde sign is storing, is using the value from this variable which start with the root directory. So this is also an absolute path. Okay, and next we'll look about IO redirection. Okay, and in Linux there are three standard IO stream, that is standard input, standard output, and standard error. Standard input have the file descriptor of 0, standard output have the file descriptor of 1, and standard error has the file descriptor of 2. Okay, with IO redirection we can modify the way a command get the data or where the command send the data. Okay, for like with the wc word count command, we can count the words, line of the file, words in the file, and the size of the file. Here let's try this with history, and we can see the output here. Okay, if with output redirection we can save this information to another file. Okay, for that let's do this and this output redirection operator, and we pass this information to wc info maybe. Okay, now there is no output, but if we cat the wc info we can see the same output again. And the wc can accept the data from with input redirection. Okay, she can accept the data from history.txt and can save the data back to wc info. Okay, oh, if we cat wc info we'll get the same data. Okay, but this time there is no file information because with input redirection this data, the data content is passed, not the actual file. So, and if this will simply always remove the data, if we want to append the data we'll have to use double greater than sign. If we can this, now the data is appended. Let's make a folder here and let's go inside path and make another directory. Okay, let's try to I'm trying to using the standard error redirection. Okay, let's clear and remove directory. Okay, if we try to remove the directory we got an error. Okay, let's try to save this error message to a file. Remove directory, let's do okay, error message, and if we cat error message there is nothing saved. Okay, the input output redirection will simply output the standard output only, not the standard error. So to redirect the standard error we have to use 2 and this error. Okay, now if we cat the error message we can see that the error message is stored in the file. Okay, and next we'll learn about links. Links are the concept where we can link two different files in some form. Okay, and link are of two types. Before link, let's talk about an inode. And inode is a metadata data structure that is stored the metadata about the file, and inode is the short form for index node. Okay, for every file in the system they have some identification node, that is index node, and a file have unique inode, so we can represent a file with that inode. Okay, let's create a directory called link2, inside the link2, and let's create a file. Repo. Let's save it to. Okay, Now we have this hello.txt file. If we have to check the ID number of this file, we can do ls-i, and this data presented here is the inode number of the file. Okay, let's create a symbolic link to another file. Link hello.txt to a.txt. Okay, and opening ls, we can see the different file here, and they look in the same. There is no relation that both look kind of normal file. And if we use ls-i, and we can see that both of these files have the same inode number. Okay, so the ln link will create the link between these files, and under the hood, these two files go into the same file structure. So even if we delete one, another will remain. Okay, let's remove the original hello.txt and get the on. It will still be there. Okay, the hello that we saved earlier. Okay, and similarly we can create a symbolic link ln i.txt to s.txt. Okay, and if we ls this, okay, to create a symbolic link, we have to pass, let's remove this file first. Okay, to create a symbolic link, we have to pass the option -s to create the symbolic link. And if we do ls, this file look kind of different. And if we take the inode ls-i, these files have different inode as well. And if we delete the original file, this will be the link will be invalid, and this invalid link is called dangling link. Okay, now let's check another concept called card. I think I have some file content here already here. Okay, in a wildcard is a symbol that refer to some other symbol. Okay, this can substitute 1, 0 or more character in the string. Okay, if we have to look for some file, here is i.java and i.js. Okay, let's create two files called cf.txt, Redirection.txt. Okay, and let's create another rrat.txt. Okay, now ls at at.txt. Okay, this what is a wildcard. We like to have one character replaced in this what. Okay, we use ls what at.txt, we will get cat.txt and rat.txt. Okay, so what character does, it will replace any single character. Okay, so we like to list everything that have one character first and at. Okay, and there is another wildcard that is called asterisk ls asterisk at.txt. And the difference between what an asterisk is, asterisk will match any number of character. Okay, what will match just one, and asterisk will match any, and it match none, one or many as well. Okay, like if we have at.txt, the ls star will match that as well. Okay, that's it. We have learned about Linux directory structure, command syntax, path name, IO redirection, links, and wildcard in this part. And in the next concept, we'll learn about permissions and ownership. Okay, see you in the next video.